Alrighty, welcome every single person who is viewing and watching from your homes, from your offices, from wherever you are in the world. Welcome to Black Future, a celebration of Black Wall Street, of Juneteenth, of crypto and Black economic empowerment. We are so thrilled to have you here, and I am your host, Erican Abodetukudo, proud co-founder and president of this wonderful community called Crypto for Black Economic Empowerment, and founder and general partner of Audacity Fund. It is a special occasion that brings us all here together today. If you are not aware, June of 2021 is a historic and big month in American history. On May 31st through June 1st in 1921, exactly 100 years ago, there was a thriving economic community, Black community, and village of families, of people who were entrepreneurs, who were leaders, who were trailblazers and pioneers, who created a community in Tulsa, Oklahoma, specifically called the Greenwood District, that was thriving and had Black-owned businesses, schools, libraries, etc. But on that May 31st through June 1st, there was a group of Oklahomians who bombed this community, destroyed it to the ground, and very few people left remaining and surviving. This community was called Black Wall Street. There are about 3 or so surviving members of this community, eldest aged at 107. Today, we want to celebrate the surviving families and the legacy of those amazing pioneers who just a few decades after the end of slavery managed to become millionaires in their community in Tulsa and create a thriving village of people that showed the example for what it could be for a community to come out from the dust and ashes of slavery to create an amazing economic community, but unfortunately reminding us of the pain of this country, whereby there are other communities, in this case white rioters, who did not like seeing that thriving economic community and unfortunately prompted the Tulsa massacre. In another area of this month of June, we have another thing to celebrate. And as you all know, Juneteenth last week became a national holiday, signed in by our President Joe Biden on June 17th. The actual day of Juneteenth was celebrated on Saturday, June 19th. Now, all of us can be reminded of the history and the legacy that former slaves have contributed to every single thread and an element and aspect of this nation's history. And now we can represent and celebrate the freedom that Black people have in this country and all that they've contributed to the entire world. Additionally, on that 100th year of Black Wall Street and shortly following the Juneteenth holiday, we also have another amazing community that's worth celebrating. And this community is called Crypto for Black Economic Empowerment, otherwise known as the New Black Wall Street or the Crypto Black Wall Street. This community is a very, very vibrant group of about 150 Black people, instead from just across the United States, actually across the world, 20 countries and 6 continents, all on a mission to build the next generation of the internet as this crypto and blockchain revolution unfolds before our eyes. In addition to circulating resources and opportunities amongst ourselves, using technology, using crypto, and using blockchain to build a path forward for ourselves, our communities, and generations to come. On the 100th year anniversary of Black Wall Street's being destroyed, we are grateful to say that we are back and we're at better as a Black community across the planet, committed and devoted to elevating each other, building the future, and creating all of the opportunities that our communities for centuries have been denied. It is an amazing pleasure to have you here. Consider yourself in a great position to learn from the amazing leaders of this community today. And today we are going to be unpacking how NFTs as a unique tool enable Black communities around the world, but especially in the United States, an opportunity to build generational wealth that we've never seen before. We're gonna hear from the wonderful artist of IX Shells, who is literally one of the world's record holders in NFT sales across a multitude of categories. We're going to hear her thoughts and learn from her perspective as being a leader in the digital art renaissance. And finally, we're going to learn how can DeFi transform and literally make shockwaves across Black communities around the world. So To get ourselves started, we are going to kick off with the NFT panel, and I am honored to introduce the CEO of VVS, Magdeldin Hamid.
Hello, hello. Thank you again. I appreciate that. Awesome. We'll have an excellent panel today. We're going to be discussing Black genius, generational wealth, and NFTs. And I'm very, very excited today to have our panel of speakers here. I'll let everybody kind of get a second to go off of mute and get on the video from our panel side. And they'll give everybody a chance to introduce themselves before I go ahead and get started. All right, Brandon, thank you, John.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for having me on. My name is Brandon Bailey. I'm one of the co-founders of One-Off. And One-Off, the mission of our company is really to just kind of uplift the Black arts movement here in the NFT space, really by carving out space for Black artists on the blockchain or in the metaverse, and then really providing data and research for those artists.
Up next, we have Iris Nevins.
Hey y'all, my name is Iris. I am the co-founder of Umba Daima and Black NFT Art. Black NFT Art is a media and community brand. We're focused on building a community around Black artists in the NFT space. We help them, we help amplify their work, and we also help them build meaningful relationships and collaborations, find allies, educate and teach each other. And through Umba Daima, we do artist management and development. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Iris. Following up, we have Ameer Carter.
Hey, how's it going? Can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right. Hey, everyone. My name is Ameer Carter, aka known as Sarsu on Twitter. I'm the founder of The Well and the Mint Fund, and excited to be here today.
Excited for it. All right, we'll go ahead and get started. So I'll start off with Brandon. Brandon, as kind of hosting a digital gallery, a virtual gallery like One-Off, you have keen visibility into the data and metrics for Black NFT artists. To really like set the foundation for our conversation, how much value have you seen in Black NFT art? How many artists and creators are there? What are their platforms, and how much money are they making? Are they earning? Like, how much are we talking about?
Yeah, I would say there's tremendous value that's being created in the NFT space. You know, we're still in the very, very early innings of the space, but there are about, I would say, over 400, approaching about 500 Black artists that are now in the NFT space. We're seeing around, there's about 15 to 20 million of total sales that these Black artists have generated just in the last 12 months, which is really, really impressive, to say the least. But I still think that there's a tremendous room to grow. The global art market did 50 billion in sales in 2020. And the NFT space, I think, did around 300 million or so for 2020. So, you know, that just gives you, you know, a little bit of insight into how early we really are into this space and how much more growth and room there is to really grow in terms of the market size. But I think that the NFT space, especially for Black artists, presents a really, really amazing opportunity. One of the research reports we recently did on an artist, Black Sneakers, who's a 21-year-old illustrator from North Carolina, just on roughly about 20 or so art sales, she was able to generate about 68 ETH, which based on the value of that Ethereum earned at the time of sale was about $70,000, which is really impressive. But I think what cannot be understated about the opportunity when you're selling your work as an NFT and earning in an appreciating asset is that it can go up in value. So that same ETH earned today is now worth over $100,000, and which is amazing, you know, to be able to just sell your artwork and earn money from it, but then also to be able to earn additional value from that underlying asset appreciating is incredibly transformational for generational wealth building. And you also can earn royalties as well So whenever that artwork trades hands, the artist will earn somewhere between a 10 to 15% royalty. And so we're seeing incredible value being created for several Black artists in this space.
It's amazing. It's amazing. And when we're talking about artists, we're talking about digital artists, music, visual. It's expansive, correct? It's not just as people might believe.
Absolutely. So when we're looking at this space, it's really, it moves beyond just static sort of traditional art. Like you said, we're talking about music, video, animations. There are even some artists that are doing collaborations with game assets and collectibles and other things. And so this market it's incredibly broad and expansive, and also provides a number of ways for artists to kind of grow their brands in more versatile ways. So you can be multi-dimensional all inside of this one space, which I think is truly incredible. And I think that it also provides a greater ability to kind of build and curate your community around yourself and your brand. And it's really about democratizing access, which, cannot be understated.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I want to take a pause really quickly before we hop back in. I see Derrick Thomas on the call. Derrick, thank you so much. Thank you for joining. We'd love to introduce yourself a little bit for the folks.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, hey, how are you guys? I'm Derrick Thomas. I go by DT, and I'm the founder and CEO of ProShark Sports, and we have a product that's releasing fairly shortly. But the really high level model that I can share at this moment is that we're leveraging blockchain technology to empower athletes to own the value that they create and build independent economies with their fan bases. And we're doing it in a very game theory strategy perspective, as well as looking at it from decentralization of the best way to say it in this decentralized influencer marketplace, as we're allowing brands to share that economics with their fan bases for the first time in history. So
that's amazing. That's amazing. That was a perfect segue as well. As we're transitioning, we see crypto impacting not just artists, we're seeing happen in the sports arena as well. And that's very exciting. We're seeing the convergence between the two. And speaking of various different people to get into the crypto space, Iris, they think that people can only make money as an investor, right? If you buy NFTs, but they're very interesting jobs that are coming about as a result of the popularity of the market, right? From curators to consultants to community developers. With your work with Black NFT Art and Umba, how are you helping artists, and how can other people get involved if they're not just looking to create art?
Yeah, so there's, I do a number of different things, but I will focus on today, I'll focus on talent management, which has been the most lucrative part of what I do right now in terms of generating income. So what we do is we identify artists that have a certain level of reach in terms of like social media, a certain level of demand for their artwork, and drive, initiative, all of that. And we step in and help to manage their careers. And so that work generally looks like a lot of administrative work. So routing requests for collaborations, emails. One of the artists that I work with, his name is Andre. He gets requests on a daily basis, and the work involved in responding and communicating back and forth, negotiating, doing contracts, scheduling meetings, all of that. It's a lot of work. And so we are able to take on those kinds of tasks. We also help with goal setting, planning, short-term and long-term planning. There's a lot of barriers in the space. So for example, there's certain platforms that are really difficult to get onto, and applying just doesn't really work. So there are back doors that you can take to try and get an artist onto one of these platforms. So we take on that responsibility, and it allows the artists, it really frees up their time so that they can actually focus on creating artwork, which means better art. It means being more clear-headed and more focused as an artist. And you don't have to be an artist to be an artist manager. I think you just need to have very strong operations and management skills, and just be very organized, be a go-getter, have initiative, and a lot of artists need this kind of support. So I would say there's lots of opportunity for people to step in and help to manage artists.
Yeah, absolutely. So another question just for that. Did you have any technical experience? Like, were you a coder by trade? How did you get into crypto? And then how did you position yourself to navigate the intersection between, onboarding users and then navigating technical?
Yeah, so I used to be an engineer. I'm actually an engineering manager right now, so I don't code anymore. I never loved it, so I'm hoping that I never have to do it again. But I would say that even though I am in tech and I do have, I think, a strong technical foundation to understand what's happening, I was introduced to crypto before I actually joined tech. But my experience in technology has helped me understand it a lot better. And so I am able to, particularly when it comes to talking to different platforms and there's a lot of NFT platforms that reach out to work with different artists. I'm able to have, I think, like really thorough conversations about the technology.
Mm. That's awesome. And then being able to translate that to your clients as well, for sure. Speaking of like communities, right? I think Ameer, being not only a multidisciplinary artist, you're also involved in a lot of different projects, and things from the Well to Mint Fund and to Heat Check. I think you center, I see a theme of community building around your work, right? With the Well, you're focused on Black artists. With Mint Fund, you're focused on LGBTQ and BIPOC users, and Heat Check, I think is very exciting. Can you tell us a little bit about Heat Check, if that's all right? You're muted right now, boss, if you're chatting.
Love it. Thank you so much. Okay. All right. Okay. So the thing about, the community building aspect of my work is you have to recognize that like narrative and storytelling, provide the why, the anchor in which people are interested in joining up a cause or being called to action, right? To do anything, whether it's purchasing your art or, just enjoying a vibe. And so the way that I sort of like fashion a lot of these things is kind of building a moat of services that are all interconnected, where you have sort of like Mint Fund acting as this safe haven for artists to express themselves unfettered by cost. And then you have the Well, in which a place that sort of immortalizes Black culture as it's being created, both past and our current present. And then Heat Check is sort of like this aggregator and this shouter that really tries to highlight and builds a new class of curators so that people can have access and tap into the art that's being created from both Mint Fund and being sold on the Well. And so it's a very interesting sort of like three-parter or like a trilogy of sorts that I've been working on building, and I'm very excited to have all of the moving pieces really launched at the end of the summer. But yeah, Heat Check is definitely something that we want to build up a new class of curation, because we recognize that likes are not they don't influence as much unless you have them at scale, but curation through purchase, curation through permanence, and the fact that we can log certain transactions. I mean, we can log transactions on the blockchain. That type of transparency creates, this conversation that says, no, I'm clearly in line with this artist or this community because you can see the history in which I've participated within it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think, and just a segue to DT with regards to building a community of athletes, right? Leveraging blockchain for both their digital ecosystems and access to fans. Can you talk to us a little bit about what are the common challenges that athletes are facing as they kind of look to adopting crypto and digital technologies? What are the ways that you guys are planning on attacking them? Or what have you seen?
Good question. The first things first, it just comes with a basic understanding of what an NFT is. So helping them understand the concepts and breaking it down in a way in which they'll not only conceptualize this, but be willing to want to implement it into their marketing strategy. So when you think of crypto and you think of NFTs, the one way I've been helping, the best thing about this, what I'm doing is I'm from the same industry in which I'm serving. So I'm a former athlete myself. I played the game at a very high level, and what I'm doing, I'm coming back to give back to pull those guys forward. And there's, with the new legislation coming down the pipeline in the next week, it's going to allow college athletes for the first time in history, high school and college athletes, first time in history, to monetize their own likeness. Which, most people are looking around and like, how hasn't that been a thing before, right? So, when you look at these monopolies, when we look at the monopolies that are in play today, we're looking at, hey, what has been taken away from them? Well, one of the biggest things that was taken away from them is just the understanding, the knowledge. And we've seen that in different other places, on plantations of identity strips. So for us, we're like, hey, the first thing we want to do is provide a way in which we can gamify the learning possibility, shorten the content in which they're consuming. And we're doing that through like a watch, learn, and earn model. So you'll definitely see that fairly soon. We're going to be launching that this summer. But those are the ways in which you educate those kids. And the other things is they learn by doing. So some of those guys, we have enough trust built where they'll launch and be willing to learn on the fly. And that's how we're dropping some of these experience-driven NFTs to actually unlock access to not only their fan bases so they can see the art of the possibility, but also for them to kind of engage and learn on the fly. And what they're doing is they're, through some of the engagement tactics that we've, our strategists put together, they're asking the fans, they're asking the artists when they collab with them, hey, what's your thoughts on NFTs? So they're engaging with their fan base and learning what their thought process is and how people are conveying those messages to each other. And that's how they're forming their opinion of what to believe and how to actually implement these things.
That's very interesting. So what I'm hearing is it goes beyond NBA Top Shots. It's not just buying replays or having a GIF of whatever. There's engagement models that can happen. There's a interaction between the athlete and their fans.
Yeah, that's really important. I mean, I think that NBA Top Shot they were a great example of the success of NFTs in the US sports market, right? And what they've done is they've partnered with the leagues, the IP holders, to create these experience-driven for the fan base, for fan bases. So when you look at a highlight, these are the players. These are the IP of the players. Where I think the next generation the next phase is going to be players wanting to monetize their own IP, where they're the IP owners of themselves, right? Because they're the IP creators. So that's the enabling factor there. And then when you start thinking about what that looks like, it doesn't always look like just a moment of me. It looks like access to me, VIP access to me. It looks like access to the economy that I've created, right? Whether it's a brand sponsorship, like for the first time now, there's a potential where fans can participate in the brand sponsorship economics of a player in their brand. So imagine if you owned a NFT for LeBron James, who's about to drop this movie, Space Jam 2. Well, when you look at Space Jam 2, he's clearly going to drop a Space Jam 2 colorway sneaker. Well, he can say, hey, listen, if you purchase my NFT, you get first dibs or first access to that experience. And that's extremely valuable, hence the reason why the development of Godaks and the secondary market of sneakers are available. I mean, that's a thriving business. So when you look at these opportunities like that, that's what is available today. And, those are some of the possibilities that NFTs and social tokens can unlock.
Absolutely well said. Folks, we're coming up on time. I want to ask one larger question just for quick shots, if you will. As you guys are scaling up your businesses, this is going to be an easy one, but I do want a quick one-liner from everybody. As you guys are scaling up your businesses and you're looking at expanding your reach, what would make your life easier, right? Is it user education? Is it better on-ramp or on-ramps? What are the things that you're seeing that you need that's not there yet?
I could start. I think it's definitely a combination of education and then the on-ramps. I think the way that I look at it, I think we want to get more collectors into the space. And my understanding from the collector side is they have a hard time kind of with discovering artists, discovering the opportunities, knowing what's real, what's credible, where should I put my money, what should I look at? So just getting them up to speed on the education, how to participate, and then also helping with the on-ramps and the curatorial aspect.
Iris, Ameer, DT.
Yeah, so for me, one of the things that would really help me out is access to development power. I think one of the interesting things is that, you know, my business is largely Black. I think actually like 100%. It's me, my co-founder, and then my 2 engineers. But it's very hard to find flourishing talent because a lot of the crypto like businesses already have recruited many of them. But thankfully, what's really awesome is that there are a lot of teenagers and a lot of like young adults who are very good at this. And so it's just now like aligning the right principles to see how I can recruit them to work with me and work on what we're doing. But access to developers, I think, is really a really interesting challenge, but I think a really rewarding one when it's done right.
You got less than Iris. You got Iris and DT.
For me, it's definitely collectors for sure. Collectors and collector education. And also I need more talent managers so that we can support more artists.
Cool. For me, given that we're building the platform to kind of like automate this entire process, one of the biggest things that will probably be helpful for us is as we continue to ink some of these partnerships with leagues like grassroots leagues, just getting introductions to those, because then we can acquire talent at a higher rate than one by one.
It's awesome to hear. Well, folks, thank you so much for your time. We'll make sure to pass all the information out for folks to get in contact with you. And at this time, we'll pass it over to Eric to transition us to the next conversation.